Welcome to another episode of Your Schools. I'm your host, Dianne Parker, and in the studio with us today, we have Becky Berg. She is a K-5 instructional math coach, as well as Christy Martin, and she is K-5 literacy coach, actually specializing in K and first grade as well. So thank you so much, ladies, for joining us today. We are talking today about how to avoid the summer slide, and this is so important. I think, you know, a lot of parents out there watching, they just like to go have fun during the summer, or they're still busy with their work. And so sometimes kids, they come back to school in the fall and they can be a little bit behind. I know I've seen that in the testing. What can we all do about this as parents?
Sure. I mean, lots of us hear about reading over the summer, and that's kind of the first place people go, is talking about making sure you continue to read over the summer. And so with your little ones, just doing that, seeing if you can pull away from that screen for about 20 minutes and really giving your kids time with an actual book and sitting down and reading to them if you have little ones. But also for your intermediate kids, letting them choose some books that they love and that they want to read, and still having them read to you 20 minutes before bedtime, or if you have time during a lunch break, or whatever it might be. Just allowing your kids to get into that book with you.
Right. And what about math? I mean, I know that I have heard a lot of the things that you're saying with reading, but math, I don't really know what to do with my kids during the summer.
Yeah, and I think math is all around us, right? And so whether you're out at the playground and you ask your child to find specific shapes or an obtuse angle, or you're going on a trip to Missoula and you ask your fifth grader, how much gas is this going to cost us? How much money will this be? Can we afford it? Should we take the truck or should we take the car? So I think really making them problem solvers and aware of the math around them. Sidewalk chalk, doing problems and shapes and polygon people with labels. Kind of like Christy said with just reading stories. There's a website called Bedtime Math, and it really provides a problem every day where, just like you read every day, we should play with numbers and reason about math throughout our summer as well.
Right.
Another great thing to do is just coding. There are so many great coding resources for both K2 and 3-5. When I spoke with Tracy Piltz, one of our technology specialists, she was suggesting that Scratch or Scratch Junior are both great. The Hour of Code. Coding is a very important skill for our kids to develop over time. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just using your technology to create something,
Yes.
instead of just looking at it. And so that involves reading too. You're reading while you code. You're having to read and create instructions and create directions. So such an important piece in the summer.
Kind of that solving and that logical thinking too is such a part of that as well. And I do think there's nothing like physically touching and doing math versus a virtual screen. So what we really know about the research is with our kids, different things happen in their brains when they're separating the goldfish to do a division problem versus doing something on an iPad or a device. So I think it's really important for us to make it fun and make it real, you know?
Right. And I think that goldfish, the snack time, that's a great example. I know, just being in the classroom, subbing a little bit this past year, I've seen some other physical things that you can pick up, even related to the calendar, right?
Yeah.
You know, you can just group things together in tens and then help your kids count, you know, how many days into summer are we? Or what day of the month is it? I mean, there's just a lot that you can do. Do you have any other examples of like math projects that parents could actually pretty easily put together with their kids at home?
Yeah, I guess I just feel like even as you're in nature, there's math everywhere. There's symmetry, there's pattern and structure, because so much of the math that we do, we want kids to see the pattern and structure, even in something very simple like a 10 frame or in a leaf. And how can we take that pattern and structure and apply it to something more complex like tessellations, for example? So I wouldn't say there's one specific project that I would have in mind. But I would say just really look for math around you in that moment.
And a lot of times that's probably not quite as overwhelming for parents too. It's
Right.
just, they don't have to think about it and like, oh, what am I going to put together? And this is going to take me so much
Right.
time. I don't know if I can fit it in. Like what you're saying, we just look for it and kind of point out those examples and work with our kids on it.
Yeah, if your kids are struggling counting to 20, have them jump on the trampoline and jump and count to 20 or count by tens. I think kids like to move and be active, and we just need to keep their developmental emotional needs in mind while we're trying to weave in the learning.
Yep, very good. Now, what about reading? What other activities would you recommend? What are some fun things that parents can do with the kids?
You know, in the summertime, our Education Foundation puts on Reading Rocks, and I think that's a huge part of our summertime reading that can be had. You go and have lunch at the park, and you get to sit and grab your favorite book. You get to pick from a whole bunch that you really connect to, and you can sit in the park and read. I think one thing is to not discount picture books, even for your older kids. There are tons of great authors out there that provide lots of connections through artwork and pictures in those books that kids love to just look at. There's 3 ways to read a book. You can read the pictures, you can read the words, and you can retell a story. So even if you're not willing to pick up a book that day, maybe you tell somebody about a book that you read that you loved. And I think getting your kids to ask questions about things they pick up along their nature walk, or they read in a book and then have a question for you. Anything that you can get your kids talking with you about, not just in reading but also in math, is another great reason to pick up a book or do some math in the real world during the summertime. Another piece also of reading that we sometimes forget is that writing piece. You mentioned picking up sidewalk chalk, and what a great idea to pick up a pen as you read and draw a picture of that great connection that you just made, or draw a picture of what you think's happening in this part of this story right now. Such a powerful piece of the puzzle to get kids writing along with what they're reading too.
And once again, that physical writing, right? Not
Yes.
just clicking on the number 1 or the number 2 to respond to a question on a device. And we really started to notice that our kids need to physically be writing with a pencil and a paper. Developmentally, they need that.
Right. Is that just helping out with their kind of fine motor skills? Or?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Definitely.
Okay, very good. What can folks do to get their preschoolers kindergarten ready?
I think there, a lot of kindergarten teachers say a lot about right now, not just about being academically ready for school, but socially and emotionally ready for school. Knowing how to follow some simple directions, knowing how to take turns, making sure you know your first and your last name. Some simpler things, but also knowing how to express your needs in a sentence, and also just knowing how to be a part of a classroom, even though that's what they're learning in kindergarten, knowing how to respond to an adult and respond to your peers, and sit and listen to a story for a little while. Some academic things though too, know a few of the letters in your name, and be able to count to 20 and sing your ABCs. Some simple things that parents can do to get their kids ready.
All right, very good. Anything that you would recommend too on the math side of things?
Yes, I just say that verbal counting, that physical one-to-one counting, putting groups of objects and things together, using our fingers sometimes to do that, or objects, and I think those would be for kindergarten readiness what I would focus on.
All right, wonderful. Well, do you guys have anything else that you'd like to add?
I think a couple summer opportunities that will be coming available is BPS is doing summer school again. So if you have questions about that, summer school will happen June 20th through July 21st. And if you have specific questions about that, you can talk to your principal, find out more details. Camp Invention is going on at Big Sky, so I know parents that have found that to be a good opportunity as well. So
Oh, that sounds fun.
Yep.
They just get, is this like STEM learning, the Camp Invention?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
What age is that for?
You know, I'm not sure what they're offering this summer.
Okay.
I know that it's at Big Sky Elementary,
Okay.
and you can go to find Big Sky Camp Invention
Yeah.
and find more details on that.
All right, well, that sounds fun.
Yep.
And thank you guys so much for all the great ideas. I think it's super helpful to parents out there listening, and we really appreciate it. All right, well, we
you.
are going to check in with Jeremy Carlson next. He is the assistant principal at Skyview. And again, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
All right, and Jeremy is on the set with us now. And Jeremy, you are really focused on the high school age students. What can they do during the summertime to just make sure that they're keeping some skills up?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it can kind of divide up into two different parts. One is just the transcript portion of it. Obviously, learning is the most important thing, but at the end of the day, there's got to be a certain number of credits in certain categories on the transcript in order to get that diploma, to earn that diploma. So registration in all the high schools, for the most part, is done as far as students selecting classes. And so there is summer school options for students to either do credit recovery, credit repair, that type of thing. And so I think one thing I would suggest to parents, oftentimes that's communicated to the student, also to the family, but if there's any sort of like questions or concerns as far as like where students are at transcript-wise, credit-wise, different opportunities to make up certain classes over the summer, to reach out to the school counselor or to one of the assistant principals in the schools, and they can definitely walk through. So it's a little bit of a complicated process, especially if you're a little bit unfamiliar with it, and so that's where we as schools really want to make sure that we serve our community well and serve our students well. The student should know that, but as we know with high school students, sometimes doesn't always make its way home too. So again, there is summer school going to be offered for students in high school to recoup some of those credits for a wide variety of reasons. The next portion of that, I think even arguably sometimes the more important part, is just this love of learning that we can do in the summertime. So the unfortunate part with some different things is that some of the students don't necessarily really enjoy reading or learning about the various topics that they're required to take. And so trying to find something within the summertime where they can read and read what they love until you learn to love to read. So that's going to be big. There's so many cool things that students, I think, can be interested in, and kind of given this joy of learning, of being a lifelong learner. So finding something out there that you're interested in, and this is true for high school students. I mean, these are young adults, and so as I'm saying this about high schoolers, I'm kind of preaching to the choir a little bit too, of what am I going to do to instill this level of learning for myself and to learn and to better myself.
Right. So can you see that across kind of all subject categories? I mean, they could probably go on trips during the summer. Parents
Yeah.
could maybe organize some family, I don't know, even trips to the museum, learn about history, social studies.
Yeah, there's so
Yeah.
many different offerings that are out there, and I think that's been one of the key things, is that sometimes we have a tendency to think, oh my goodness, I got to go and create this grandiose plan, and really it's just the simple things. I mean, one thing we talk a lot about is that big doors open on small hinges, that it's the little things that matter, and the little things that are done exceptionally well can lead to some great gains. So just finding something out there, again, that you love, whether it's cars, it could be athletics, it could be something with nature, travel, to your point, just doing something within that to kind of grasp your attention. I mean, there's an amazing things to learn over the summertime that's not just so focused on the curricular areas that are required towards graduation.
Right. Do you think it's a good idea for parents to kind of brainstorm this and kind of maybe write down a checklist of things they might want to do? Or is it kind of more as they come up, just see what's around you and just try to incorporate it?
Yeah, I think part of that just being authentic with your child. You know, I talk about children, you know, as a former elementary principal, now with high school students, we're talking about young adults. They are children in some aspect, but again, relating to them in an authentic way, and just having conversations around the dinner table. Maybe it is going outside. I know that Christy talked about reading rocks in the summertime. Getting high schoolers involved in that too, trying to build some of that in there. If they have younger children in the home, having the high schooler read to one of their siblings, I think, is going to be super important. I have 3 little kids, and what's great is that they get a chance to go to different activities. That's what I love about high school, is that our high schoolers get to know my kids personally super well. And so they're heroes. I mean, they love talking to adults, they love talking to their teachers. When they see high school students, like, their eyes just light up. And so if you as a parent have a son or a daughter that's interested in that, for that Reading Rock stuff, I know that would be huge for our community to have our high schoolers read to our younger students in the community. It really is a win-win scenario.
Wow, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And they can probably go ahead and get a hold of the foundation. Is that?
Yep, the Education Foundation would be a
Okay.
key part of that too. Or even if they reach out to our neighborhood school, we can put in contact and get the pieces in place.
Okay,
Yep.
sounds good. A couple of other summer jobs come to mind, maybe even
Yep.
babysitting, working with those younger
Yeah.
kids, kind of reading to them.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's going to be key too. And so we know that as far as, like, with parents needing to work, it's a great summer job. And again, we have tremendous high school students at all the Billings schools. And even as our Billings community, we're so fortunate to be where we're at, living in Billings, Montana. So to capitalize on the gifting of our young people, we're talking about the future of our country. And I get kind of teared up thinking about that, because we have such amazing kids in our community.
Right, and I know that you have a lot of passion
Yeah.
for students and just for education in general. Let's talk a little bit about your background. I know you're the assistant principal at Skyview right now, but you were a teacher in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I taught social studies and I taught Spanish. My first job was actually in Lavina, Montana, so super small. I think the graduating class when I was only there for 1 year, was 4. And so that's something really special about, again, just Class C Montana. Then I had a chance to go and teach at Skyview for about 8 years or so. And again, I taught and I coached basketball and tennis there too. And now I have an opportunity to be an administrator, which is great. So to help lead a positive culture for a school, to help really support and love teachers well, knowing that they're so important in a child's life. And so as we do that well, that trickles down to the classroom too for our students. So again, we talk about some amazing kids, but man, we have amazing teachers in Billings Public Schools.
Yes, so many amazing
Yep.
teachers. Yes, and they do such great work. And I think, like a lot of us, if we've never been in the classroom, we have no idea how much work they're doing every
Yeah.
day. But they really care for our kids. It's
right.
incredible.
Yep, that's right.
So I know that you are somewhat interested in the social emotional aspect for students. Talk to us about that and the importance.
Yeah, so education of the whole child is super important, you know. Oftentimes in traditional education, it talks about your academics are over here, your social emotional learning, or even like your mental health is over there, and they're kind of 2 separate tracks. And at Skyview in particular, really trying to focus on connecting those, that it's one set of tracks going down the line with that train. Where if a student's not ready to learn for a wide variety of reasons, and I think to some degree COVID has magnified this, because everyone around this, yourself, me included, we're all fighting a great battle, and that's on the turf of our heart, and we bring that into the school. And so we want to make sure that we love the whole child well, so we can meet those academic needs. But it's an investment. Compassion fatigue really is a big deal. And so we got to make sure we support and we care for our staff members well, just knowing that they're really digging in with our students to really care and support them well outside of school.
Right. What can community members do if they're listening? Are there volunteer opportunities?
Yeah, you know, we're the public schools. It's a gift. I mean, I talk about like education being the best profession in the world because it matters, but it's the hardest profession in the world because it matters every single day. And so just reaching out to the neighborhood school or a school that maybe you graduated from. I'm a West High grad. I'm very proud of that. And so I know that's a big part. High school Billings is a big high school community. So just reaching out to a school and just trying to get plugged in anywhere necessary, we definitely can find a fit for you.
Right, and I know that the school always appreciates it.
Yeah.
I do a little bit of volunteering at my kids' school, and there's always something to do, whether it's just, going to the library for an hour and helping there, or going to a classroom. There's a lot that you can do.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Okay, so we have a few minutes left. I'm really fascinated by social media. You've probably seen a lot of changes over your career. What are you noticing?
Yeah, it's a big challenge. There's a lot of blessing within social media as far as staying connected, and the purpose I think is great, but it's really hard for a young person to navigate this world well. things get posted online, and I think oftentimes, whether it's a kid or whether it's an adult, don't realize none of that stuff is private anymore. That it's in the public sphere. And so I think one of the main things that I see in particular as an assistant principal or a dean at a high school is students have a hard time staying disconnected from just what's going on around them. So whether it's conflict, and again, as relational beings, conflict is all around us. And so with that being said, if there is something going on in school, a conflict with a peer, they can get away from it when they're at home, either from that person or somebody screenshots somebody where it's, I guess it's a friend or an acquaintance saying, well, this person said this, or taking a picture of just what's going on throughout the day is super, super challenging. So just really encourage parents to stay engaged in that, be a part of that process. It can be a scary world too, especially if you're not really comfortable with social media. But again, your child, no matter what age they are, they need support navigating this world, because it really is a big part of what's going on right now.
Right, I didn't think about that and the screenshot aspect, because I know some parents, they get pretty strict with that and they just say no social media, but you're right, like other kids who are on it, they can screenshot stuff, and if your kid has a phone, or they can be shown another kid's phone, so yeah.
Yep, that's right.
Okay, well, a lot to be aware of
That's
as
right.
parents. Thank you for a heads up on some of that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just that, again, as a public school educator, we're here to support the kids and support the community. And so it's not just really just working in isolation. When we do this, it takes a community to raise a child. And so that's what I love about raising my kids in Billings. But again, we need the support of the community too, as far as getting into the schools, helping the schools. We really want to make sure we partnership well with our parents and our community.
Right. All right, well, Jeremy, we want to thank you so much for coming on the show, as well as to Becky and Christy, and we'll see you next time on Your Schools.